Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is Craig Curelop. Thanks for being on the show, Craig.
Hey, thanks for having me, Whitney. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And Craig is a top-selling real estate agent, investor, and author of The House Hacking Strategy. Just 3 years after being in debt $60,000, he was able to achieve financial independence largely through real estate investing. And today, I want us to hear exactly how he did that, because I know the listeners and myself, we either remember a time or we're in that now where we are just pushing for that financial independence that Craig has achieved in a great way. So, and congratulations first, Craig, on that, and just even writing a book, about house hacking. And I'm looking forward to hearing your strategy and how you've accomplished that. I know the listener is as well. But get us started about your real estate background a little bit, and let's dive into your story and how you achieved financial independence.
For sure, yeah. So I started investing in real estate in June 2017. I moved to Denver pretty much just 2 months before that in April 2017 from a job that I absolutely hated. And so being in a job that you absolutely hate, I think almost helps you, because you realize how much you want to get out of the rat race and just kind of do what you love to do. And so, June 2017, I bought my first house hack. For those that don't know, a house hack is when you buy a 1 to 4 unit property, live in part of it, rent out the other parts, so that the rent from the other parts covers your mortgage and you get to live for free, likely even less than free. You actually start cash flowing. And it's a great way to really kind of build that foundation for real estate investing. There's a lot of great aspects to house hacking, because you can just put a small amount down, typically 3 to 5%. And you're also just like learning to become a landlord. It's not like you've got a property that's 400 miles away. You're literally going home to your investment. So it's a great transition into true real estate investing. My first property there was a duplex. It's a 2 1-bed, 1-bath, up-down duplex, just about 5 blocks north from Denver's largest park, in an area that was still a little bit sketchy at the time, but was certainly gentrifying. And so I kind of played that risk card there, where I was hoping to be in an area that would appreciate. 3 years later, in hindsight, fortunately I did. And so that's kind of where it all started. Do you want me to go into all the numbers and everything like that?
Maybe you could just highlight quickly for the listener who's just getting into real estate. Maybe their desire is to be in commercial real estate, because if they are, probably because they're listening to this show. But I love hearing a house hacking story, because it is a great way to get into the rental business and just lower your expenses and start learning so much about the business for many people.
Yeah, for sure. For the syndication stuff, it's a great start, right? At the end of the day, a syndication is just basically a massive, right? It's just like this times 100, right? So you got to at least know how one works really well, and then you can start scaling. And then obviously the investor side and all that is a different story. But, I personally, as someone who may invest in a syndication, I would not invest in anyone's syndication who has never invested in real estate. Right. So the best part about house hacking is that you can get in for a low amount down. You can actually call yourself a real estate investor really after year one, and you move out of that property and start having that as a traditional rental. And that way you at least have some sort of track record with your own money. So that way it makes raising other people's money a little bit easier.
Yeah, love that. And tell me, maybe you could just tell us a couple of the numbers there. Did it pay for itself while you were living there? Were you living for free or nearly for free? And just your a couple things there on your path to achieving financial independence and getting out of debt.
Yeah, for sure. So what I did there was, it was a duplex. I lived in the bottom, rented out the top. My monthly payment on that thing was about $2,000, a hair over $2,000. And I rented the top out for $1,750, lived in the bottom. That obviously didn't cash flow. And my biggest goal was to cash flow. So what I did was I rented out my bedroom on Airbnb, and I made basically like a cardboard box and curtain room divider in the living room, slept on a futon for a year behind that. And that is what rented my bedroom out for about $1,100 a month on Airbnb. And then I was cash flowing, living for free. And people tend to like that story because it was just kind of like 1 year of just like true grit to like get through it. And then after that first year, I went and I was able to save up enough money to then buy a second house like exactly 1 year later. And this time I bought a single family house where I lived in one room and rented out the other rooms. And each of those properties, once I move out, is cash flowing me a little over $1,000 a month. So, you can see I did that 4 times, and you can see with $4,000 a month, plus I've got some other investments, $5,000 a month is definitely, baseline financial independence. I'm no Grant Cardone or anything, but, I can comfortably quit my job and do whatever I want.
Wow. No, that's incredible. Congratulations, Craig. But it's interesting, I love hearing stories like that too. Like you lived on, in a part of this room or whatever for a year, so you could Airbnb your bedroom to make it happen. And I love hearing stories of guys and gals who, did what it took, to make it happen. And because it's stepping out and doing what other people won't do, right? To gain that success, and you've done that. So, let's dive into a few things that you experienced there as far as, I'm sure family or friends or people were saying, Craig, you're crazy, or why are you doing this? Or, why don't you just go get a regular apartment or a house, or, stop doing that? Or, what did you experience there, and how did you combat those emotions to stay motivated and keep doing that?
Yeah, I just wanted to achieve financial independence so badly. Once I heard about retiring early, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And yeah, it did not go without any heartache. My parents have always been pretty supportive. However, my grandfather, who I do love dearly and still do, when I was living behind that curtain, I went back home and we had a beer together, and he berated me, calling me a miser and all of these things just to save a dollar. And I was just like, this is just like, it's 1 year. It's just a stepping stone. Like, this is what's going to get me ahead of anyone else what I would do otherwise. And, he didn't seem to believe it at the time, but now he certainly understands kind of what was going on. And yeah, it's just, it's hard because no one in my family thinks that way about passive income or anything like that. They've all had that very hardworking middle-class mindset. So.
Such a great point you just made there. And so I think you have to think about where you're taking advice from, right? Or who you're getting that from. Is this person where I want to be? And how did you change your mindset? I mean, a lot of times, and I have a similar story to that. But how did you change your mindset? Out of the way you were raised potentially, or the rest of your family to where you're at now.
Honestly, I think it really came from reading, like just reading. I see the book behind you, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek. And that was probably the book that got me into passive income. And I was like, oh, this is like changing the game. And I look at my parents and, again, as great as they are, they worked hard their whole life. They're still working. They weren't able to attend every single event and all the things growing up while they were still there somehow. But I just wanted to be there 100% of the time. And I was like, okay, like as a growing adult, you have to realize that your parents are human too, and they may have made some mistakes. And then you realize what mistakes your parents have made, and you try to correct them. And to me, that's just progress through the generations. And ideally, in an ideal world, your kids are always going to be better off than you are, right? That's progress. And so that's kind of what I hope to be, and that's what I hope my kids are.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And you talked about reading. We encourage our kids to read and are learning to read. And I'm reading more now than I ever have in my life. And I think similar to what you're talking about. The more I started to read, the more my mindset changed, more my daily habits changed, and just self-discipline, grew, right? In learning what had to happen. What are some other key steps that maybe you made to gain that financial independence that maybe your friends were not making, or even your family?
It was really just reducing kind of that gap, right, between the amount of money you make and the amount of money you spend. Increasing that gap between the amount of money you make and the amount of money you spend. So, I was spending, like, in that first year, like I didn't drink. I was like so focused on achieving financial independence. Never went out to eat, bike to the grocery store, bike to work. I actually rented my car out on Turo, which is like Airbnb for car rentals. And so I was just like, basically renting out everything I owned, making as much money as I possibly could, while sitting back and just saving as much as I could. And it was a fun year. It was a really big year of like self-development and growth. I'd read, 60 something books that year, listened to a whole bunch of podcasts. And, that really gave me the foundational confidence and education to go forward and actually start taking action, just really a year later.
Read 60 plus books. That's incredible. I'm glad that you said that. And I want to highlight that a little bit, but I thought maybe you could go into maybe a daily routine, or your daily routine. You're not going to read 60 plus books in a year and not have some structure, right? And have some self-discipline and, have a time of day that you're doing that or that you're focused on those things. What does that look like for you? How did that change? And what is it now? You're just your daily routine to be that productive.
Yeah. So have you read The Miracle Morning?
I did about 3 years ago, and it changed everything about my morning.
Yeah, so Miracle Morning is where it was at, basically. For those who don't know, The Miracle Morning was written by a man named Hal Elrod, and he goes and interviews the most successful people in the world and figures, hey, there's like 6 things that all the most successful people do. What if you did all of them? And there's an acronym called SAVERS. S stands for silence, A stands for affirmation, V visualizations, E exercise, R reading, and S is scribing. And so I would wake up. I used to wake up at 7. I would go from 7 to 6:30 to 6, and I've gone all the way down to 4:30 a.m. So at that time, I was waking up at 4:30, doing that morning routine, and I allocated about an hour to an hour and a half every morning of reading, and read for an hour and a half every morning for say 300 days a year. Let's say I wasn't perfect, you'll get to 50 to 60 books.
Gene Trowbridge and Jonathan Ney, founding partners of the top syndication firm Trowbridge Law Group, LLP, have a legal team with over 50 years of combined experience in real estate syndication and the practice of real estate securities law. Over this time, Gene and his partners in several past firms and currently have helped clients raise close to $5 billion in offerings by empowering entrepreneurs to raise capital legally. To learn more about Trowbridge Law Group, LLP, visit their website at trowbridgelawgroup.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. You have to be purposeful. And it's interesting you brought that book up because that was a book I read, maybe 4 years ago now, something like that. And that did change everything. And I wouldn't say I've done everything that, the SAVERS acronym lays out. However, it did just make me think more purposefully with my time in the morning, right? And reading was a big part of it, has been. I've read more in the last few years than I have my entire life, and contribute so much to that. Anything else in your morning routine or just your daily routine that has proven to help you be successful?
I would just say getting in that routine, staying dedicated, and don't fall into bad habits, such as, whether it's going out and drinking every night, whatever it is. Like, I think exercise is a huge thing. Make sure you work out pretty much every day. That just keeps your mind clear, keeps your body looking good, keeps your confidence up, all of these things. And even though you don't feel like it does anything, it does a lot, right? But I would say those are the biggest things, is just that miracle morning and exercising each day. Yeah.
Any other tips for, the new investor who's struggling to get started?
If you're struggling to get started, it either means you lack confidence in education, so learn, or it means that you don't have enough money, so start saving. Or, I think it's either one of those two things. Or you're just not afraid, or you're afraid, which means like you need to just get going, right? Everyone's afraid on their first deal, so you just have to go ahead and push through it.
What's been the hardest part of this journey in real estate to gaining, financial independence?
The hardest part was probably, at first, it was being different from everybody, right? When you do go through this journey, you accelerate your wealth so quickly that you really never are like anybody else, right? You start off and I was living behind a curtain and everyone was basically thinking I was a poor man, but I wasn't, right? I was just saving a lot of money. And then you buy a second house in less than a year, and that's pretty unnormal. But at that point I was probably at like the normal person living with roommates. But then once you get to year number 3, number 4, now I'm starting to, invest tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate. And people are like, oh, how can you do that? I'm like, well, remember when I was living behind a curtain? It all kind of adds up and piles up to itself. So at really no point in this journey are you relatable to your peers. So just be ready for that and embrace it and actually accept it, because when you're unrelatable, it means you're doing something pretty damn cool that, a lot of people, other people won't be able to do.
Incredible that you brought that up right there. I mean, that you're unrelatable. You're doing things that other people are not willing to do. Even living behind the curtain, and people, what they think about you is just irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, it's just
Yep.
you just have to tune it out, and ignore it completely. And you were good at that. That's incredible. And now they're looking at Craig saying, wow, where did this come from? I didn't see it happen. Craig, what do you see happening over the next, say, 6 months to a year in the real estate market? And are you a buyer or seller, or are you waiting? What's your plan?
I buy. I try never to sell, only if the property is really causing distress. And yeah, so I'm going to continue to buy. I've got 2 more under contract out in North Carolina that I'm working on now. I've got 4 in Denver. Once 2021 comes around, I'll probably buy a few more here in Denver. And I'm not really waiting for this big market correction that everyone tends to talk about. I just try to consistently buy good cash flowing deals. That way I can survive a market crash and I can thrive in a market increase. Whatever the market brings, we can handle it.
What's something that you've learned from your experience now that you've learned? What's something you would do different now on, say, that first deal, now that you know what you know?
I probably wouldn't have bought a traditional duplex. In the Denver market, what really works good is buying a single family home and converting that single family home into a kind of a smaller single family home with a mother-in-law suite in the basement. And that is kind of how you get the most sustainable cash flow. You'll also get some good appreciation. I got really lucky on that first deal and it's appreciated like 200 grand. So I'm happy about it. But in hindsight, I didn't know it was going to do that. So I would have likely gone the single family route. But either way, that's how you live and you learn and you work out.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a way that you have recently improved your business that we could apply to ours?
I started doing a lot more outsourcing. So as a real estate agent, we have a transaction coordinator. She saves my life just through organization and getting a lot of the admin stuff done. I've also hired a VA right, out of the Philippines. She's amazing. She takes care of all of the the non-time sensitive things that I just don't really want to do. And so between those 2 things, it's great. And, we're starting to build a team out here too. So I'm, the agents under me, I'm training and they are all house hackers or investors as well. And they're all great. And we're just trying to basically, level up, scale up. And I'd like to eventually kind of be just kind of a consultant through this whole thing rather than an actual agent doing showings and all that kind of stuff.
Nice. Okay. And, tell me, Craig, the number one thing that's contributed to your success.
Consistency. I heard a quote the other day that I just almost want to I'm not a tattoo person, but I almost want to get it tattooed on me that says consistency trumps intensity. Because just doing 1 hour of something or even a half hour of something every day over the course of 2 years will be a lot better than allocating that same amount of time over the course of 2 weeks, because you just will get burnt out and not want to do it anymore. So just be consistent, do something. The Compounding Effect by Darren Hardy is another great book that basically describes that exact thing. Yeah.
Nice. Appreciate you making the book recommendation as well. And tell us how you like to give back.
So I always try to, at least donate some money each year to, usually I don't have a specific organization that I'm loyal to, but I enjoy just, when my friends on Facebook are looking to raise money for something, I'll always give them a little more than they would expect anyone to give them, just so it's a good feeling for them and a good feeling for me. And yeah, I don't give as much of my time as I probably should. But I feel like that I used to give a lot more of my time before I had a little bit more money, but now I'm okay not giving up my time and giving some more money. So, and then obviously, just helping others and trying to put out content to help others build wealth through real estate investing. We've helped a lot of house hackers and investors out here achieve financial independence or come pretty close.
Nice. Craig, I'm grateful for your time. It's an incredible story that you have. Congratulations again just on your success and doing the hard things that nobody else is willing to do. Living behind a curtain for a year is not something most are willing to do to achieve anything, much less just have the consistent daily habits that you have talked about and just illustrated through your success. So, Craig, thanks again for your time. Tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram. Is probably the best way. I'm at the FI guy, at the FI as in financial independence guy. And you could also, thefiteam.com is our agent website if you're in the Denver area, or you can always find me on Bigger Pockets as well.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.